Pinball games on consoles are always an interesting proposition. By their very nature, they're obviously never going to capture the unique feel and experience of an actual pinball machine, and that poses some interesting questions for their developers to consider. Do they attempt to recreate the pinball experience as faithfully as possible, or do they embrace the fact that they're able to do things on a console that they just practically and physically couldn't on a mechanical table? It's a conundrum where the answers are going to be highly subjective and won't satisfy everybody. Making a console pinball game slavishly realistic may be a turn-off for those who demand bells and whistles, and going overboard with special features that laugh in the face of real-world physics is likely to displease purists. The bottom line though is that, usually, how well these kinds of games are received comes down to their overall execution. A good deal of pinball's appeal away from its representation in video games lies in the unique presentation of any given table, with the most remarkable ones being defined by a balance of aesthetic and clever mechanical design. Each new machine needs to do something that really demands attention and keeps players interested, otherwise they're just an elongated box filled with bumpers and flippers. That's something that Naxat Soft really seemed to have taken to heart during the development of their 1988 PC Engine game Alien Crush, which pulls out all the stops to deliver a visually impressive, memorable pinball experience. Provided the sight of anything slimy and monstrous doesn't send you running away from it screaming, that is. Alien Crush is one of those games that's grown a kind of legend about it, and it's not hard to see why. It features just a single table, which might seem a bit stingy in light of the multi-table pinball games available for various different platforms these days. But I don't think you can really complain about that, because, to be fair, showcasing a single high-quality, maybe even licensed reproduction of a particular table was really what console pinball games were all about for the longest time. And you get one hell of a table here. Somebody really had fun designing this game. Very clearly, it takes its art design cues from the Alien movies, with all the table's features heavily stylized to reflect that. For instance, the mechanism that launches the ball, if you squint at it, looks kind of like the egg that spat something horrible onto John Hurt's face back in the first film. And the rest of the table is decked out from top to bottom with bones and biomechanical details, some of which look like they flowed straight from the nozzle of H.R. Giger's own airbrush. Some of the locks are styled after hungry xenomorphs, and the bumpers on the bottom of the table's two-screen layout even take the form of cocoons that eventually hatch and release alien bugs. Visually, it's a highly detailed, superb-looking game, and I don't think there's anything quite like it on the PC Engine. This is one of those games that really does embrace the fact that it's being played on a console, and goes all in on that rather than trying to ape the way a physical machine would behave. Hence, once you've satisfied certain conditions by activating the required features on the table, you can trigger the release of alien critters that can be hit with the ball for extra points, or find yourself transported elsewhere to play a bonus game. There are a few of these, and they're definitely not the kind of thing you'd ever see on a real table, unless it was powered by some kind of freaky alien magic. And while they're nothing especially mind-blowing in and of themselves, besides being your gateway to higher scores, they do a lot to break up the gameplay and keep it nice and varied. Half the fun of these games lies, I think, in learning the intricacies of how the table works, and what you need to do to earn score multipliers and activate special features. This takes time and practice, and even when you've worked out what hitting certain bumpers and destructible objects does, you've still got to be able to actually do it if you want to score big. With Alien Crush, the table design is quite complex, so there's a lot to work out, but that's what keeps it interesting. It's a joy to play as well. The controls are logically arranged to approximate the feel of a real pinball machine as much as possible. The left and right flippers are triggered by pressing left on the D-pad and button 1 on the PC Engine joypad, which seems weird for all of about 2 seconds before you get the hang of it. It's the kind of control scheme I've seen on a good few console pinball games, and makes sense when you think about how a real table's controls are situated. Besides the flippers, Button 2 is your tilt button, which approximates the real-world effect of bodily thumping into the table to jolt your ball out of a precarious position. That works just about as well as it would in real life, which is to say, rarely, although you can at least do it without the risk of being shouted at by the table's concerned owner. Ball physics are great too, and the game never feels unfair. It also gives you a choice of 2 play speed settings, so you can play on the slower one for a while to familiarise yourself with the table before switching to the faster speed, which is the only speed to seriously play at as far as I'm concerned. There's just one thing that spoils Alien Crush for me a little bit, and it's more an indicator of how difficult it is to do pinball games right on consoles than anything else. The fly in the ointment for me is the way the screen flicks between the top and bottom halves of the table. I'm no expert on the technical vagaries of the PC Engine hardware, so I don't know if it's just not up to scrolling up and down as quickly and smoothly as it would need to create the illusion of playing across a full-length table. The game's designed in such a way that you can easily spend a lot of time on whichever half of the table you find yourself on, thanks to the sheer number of things there are to do there. So most of the time, the simple flick screen transition isn't too obtrusive, but it's annoying when you get into a situation where the ball ricochets rapidly between them, causing the screen to momentarily black out as it changes. It's the only black mark against the game that leaves it feeling a little bit dated, in my opinion. And it's a shame this flaw is present, because in every other respect, the game's near untouchable. Alien Crush isn't by any means the only choice for folks wanting a pinball fix on their PC Engine. It was notably followed by Naxat's own Devil Crash, which traded the extraterrestrial aesthetic for an occult theme. Some people would have it that Devil Crash is the better game, but personally, I think I'd rather go for the sci-fi angle of this one over the pseudo-Satanism of its successor, just because of my sheltered upbringing. I certainly don't get the sense that I'm settling for second best by sticking with Alien Crush though. I absolutely love the design of the table, and if you're anywhere near as nuts about the Alien movies as I am, you'll appreciate that the game's cool factor runs very, very high. Whether it's a game you can sit down and lose hours to will more than likely come down to your own personal appreciation of pinball, and whether it even appeals to you in the first place. It's the kind of thing you play for high scores and little else after all, so if you need anything more than that from your gaming, it's probably not for you. On the other hand, if pinball is your thing, or if you simply appreciate good PC Engine games, Alien Crush comes highly recommended, because it plays extremely well and it has bags of individuality about it. What more do you need?